Hello, my name is Mitch and I draw Blood Force, and today we're continuing our trip through some of the best art in mainstream comics in 1991. Which sounds a little specific, except that 1991 was very good for mainstream comic book art. So today we're looking at X Factor number 67. So just before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, if you think you might want to support me a bit as an artist, what you can do is, in the description, there's a link to my Patreon. Go subscribe there. That'll give you access to all of the Blood Force stuff, the comics, the pages, also these videos before they get uploaded to YouTube, usually a week or so in advance. So, X Factor number 67 by Whilce Portacio and Chris Claremont. And a little bit of Art Thibert in there as well. So if we recall what's been going on so far, Apocalypse has attacked X Factor. Seemingly unprovoked at first, but then more clearly to get a hold of Scott's son, Nathan Summers. And he did this by taking over X Factor's headquarters, the ship, which used to be Apocalypse's ship, which responded by launching itself into space and blowing itself up. And that's pretty much where we left things off. We also introduced a character named Askani from the future. So let's get into it here. First, might as well start with the cover. This image might be a little familiar to those who follow my Instagram, actually. This is an image I appropriated for a pastiche on Whilce Portacio's style to do my character, Lieutenant Hogstab, in. So you can go check that out on Instagram if you like. Actually, there's a video on this channel, too, about drawing that and about trying to figure out how to draw like Whilce. It ain't easy. But decent cover, no background, but a lot of characters anyway. And able to fit everybody in and make them all look pretty good, dynamic, all that kind of stuff. Interacting with the logo, always a good time. And nice heroic shot of Scott here. So, Battletoads, you asshole. Alright, so we're going to start things off with X Factor in space, among the debris of the ship. So what it looks like the ship has been able to do, well, and Beast was doing his bit too. So, let's not shortchange him here. They were able to essentially create a life raft, like a little emergency pod for X Factor to just kind of float there in and hope that something would work out. And what do you know, something did. It's almost like this is a story of some kind. And we get all of our irregular panel borders here, because it's Whilce. And Whilce don't truck with no 9-panel grid. So there's our first flip. There's our big spread. And the people who have picked up X Factor are, in fact, the Inhumans. Because X Factor was flying kind of close to the moon. Which, at this point, that's where the Inhumans are. They're inhabiting the blue area of the moon. And maybe not the most dynamic choice for a double page spread. You got to do something, I suppose. If you're committed to the gimmick of the page 2 and 3 double page spread, you got to pick something. And just revealing who your rescuers are, that's pretty good. And Whilce is going to actually devote a bit of time to the background here. And this is what I need to steal. All this background text stuff, this is perfect. And learning the density of it, that is some good stuff. Because you get a little bit of this hyper dense line work, but then you break it up with like large panels. And that's a good thing to figure out how to do. And the ship is still sentient and is able to communicate with the X Factor team. And everybody's basically okay, other than having been shot into space and exploded. Just another day at the office. So now we're going to get the backstory behind what exactly is going on. So the villains that attacked X Factor's ship, the specific characters, they were made up of Inhumans themselves, part of the Inhuman royalty, actually. They tend to be cousins of some of these members here. So, specifically, Jean Grey mentions Synapse, who was a cousin of Crystal here. And that's all good stuff. And Apocalypse has turned them all to his will. And in the meantime, he's also imprisoned all of the other Inhumans. And this is the stuff that isn't particularly fun to look at, I suppose. If you remember from the Art of Homage book, Whilce breaks down panels into 2 categories, which is stuff that's fun to draw and stuff that's boring. So this is a boring page. But thankfully, we got Claremont on scripting duties. So this is actually a decent read. I actually enjoyed reading this comic. I think more so than the uncanny Jim Lee stuff that we were looking through earlier. And now we're going to do a quick transition. Oh, did we have a blank panel to ease the transition? We didn't either. Man, that's jarring then. So yeah, we're transitioning to the future, where Askani was, and she teleported back to Marvel's heyday. Mid-1991. It doesn't get much better. Well, I guess you could do the mid-60s. That would have been interesting. And again, not much going on this page, although interesting use of, I guess it's a screen tone, and it looks like some of it got scraped off at the bottom here to get that effect of, I think that's smoke. This is a post-apocalyptic future where Apocalypse essentially, I guess it's a currently apocalyptic future where Apocalypse rules and basically humanity is doomed, and that is why they're doing a whole Terminator thing where she's the last hope and she gets sent back to try and change the past so Apocalypse doesn't take over. They're hoping that, best case scenario is that Askani is successful and they all blink out, which is preferable to this hellhole future. And then we get some great teleportation stuff where Wilson's gonna flex his chops a little bit. Love the 8-foot-long hair here. That's good stuff. And so this is the teleporting procedure. And apparently Askani can do it a little easier than the rest of the people that she's a part of, because she's a member of the family. By the family, she means X Factor, actually. So she's a relative. She's a Summers, essentially. And she was advised earlier that this is a one-way trip. There is no ticket back to the future. It's she just gets to go back by herself and try to change things. And if she fucks up, well, she knows how that's going to turn out. And of course, we know that she fucked up because Apocalypse did get Nathan Summers. And now we're going to cut back to the moon here, where Cyclops is breaking down the situation. So Apocalypse has taken over the royal palace of the Inhumans. And he's augmented it. I think he took the palace anyway. But he's augmented it with parts of the city, and he's using Inhuman slaves to do this. And for a bunch of guys in a briefing room kind of page, this is pretty good. This is a pretty dedicated use of templates here. But yeah, no, there's some good stuff going on here. Again, the kind of thing I should be stealing regularly. Oh wow, the Rocketeer. This is just getting released. Eh? That was comic movies back in the day. So getting back to X Factor here, Foxbat and Gauntlet teleport in, because that's what they do. They do a lot of teleporting. Just to bitch slap Iceman, because that's what you do to Iceman. And Steel Crystal, the character. And now they're going to have to launch their counterattack. And again, we're not holding with no normal panel layouts here. Everything's got to be weird. Like, what is this? Why is this even here? I don't know. This is the teleportation panel. I guess that's part of it. And now we're going to cut to Apocalypse's throne room. And Whilce likes to draw Apocalypse kind of bloated, really. When he's, well, at least his face. Anyway, his body's usually pretty, standard. Maybe a bit more, I don't know, inflated than usual. But no, his face tends to be, he likes to do a fat face on Apocalypse. And Apocalypse is informed that a large force of Inhumans has massed outside the fortress and are marshaling for an attack. And Apocalypse goes, so how is that possible when I have all of them enslaved? Which is a good question. And we get a great shot, great hero shot for Cyclops here. And X Factor springing into action. And that's just a fantastic pose. Again, something I should probably be looking to steal. It's kind of, I guess it's kind of standard, but just the way the weight is placed on it looks great. And we cut down here and immediately kind of undercut it, because they do, I think they did mention earlier, ship has been successfully salvaged, the program anyway, and has been integrated into the Inhumans computer. So it's its own separate entity inside of the Inhumans equipment. And it's been able to generate holograms, which is what we're actually seeing here. This isn't actually X-Factor launching a frontal assault on Apocalypse. And Apocalypse responds to this supposedly real attack with multiple apocalypses. Beast counts at least 5 of them. And that's a nice shot for a splash page. I guess it does kind of build to this Apocalypse here, and then you notice this one here. Yeah, no, that all works very nicely. And the deal, of course, with Inhumans is that they all look different. So you can have them just be like weird Muppet creatures. And now that Apocalypse has sent out his vanguard, Karnak and Beast and Gorgon all basically, stomp the ground at the same time and create a fissure, which eliminates the vanguard. I was like, okay, well, that's not a massive amount of troops, maybe. It's, well, sometimes that's all you need. That's how the Scots won Stirling. And not by making spears, Mel Gibson. Come on, man. So now that Apocalypse's vanguard has been taken care of, they don't need the hologram anymore because it's not fooling anybody now. So that's going to start to dissipate. And the hologram was basically there to, draw out the vanguard and distract from what the team is actually doing. And the team is just X-Factor plus the Inhuman royalty, who are going to go and try and rescue the Inhumans. Which is a good call. If nothing else, you get yourself some cannon fodder. It's all good. Cyclops gets to use his laser blast. I mean, what more do you want? All right, so we cut back to Black Bolt and Cyclops. So Black Bolt has his people back, which is really what he was really there for. And Cyclops and X-Factor can now go and take on Apocalypse in a standard let's go kind of panel. And I'm not sure what Jean's doing here. Basically, I think he needed to make her look dynamic, so really put a twist into her. It does just kind of look like she's dancing in midair. Just kind of gyrating like, let's go. But you gotta love these panels with where they look like they're, again, like 50 feet tall. Like, Beast almost looks like he's crawling on Black Bolt's leg here. But nice use of depth. Just the little destroyed area of the wall here for them to crawl in. That's good stuff. It does kind of look a bit, when you really look at it closely, it does look a bit like they're about to attack these two. And they're just not noticing because they're so large. And now we're going to cut back to X-Factor working their way inside the palace here. And they're dealing with these robotic apocalypses. You can't see them too well. They see them better in a minute. And so Claremont has to come up with something interesting to be happening during this scuffle. Because we got 4 individual shots here of X-Factor. And, you can have them all saying something stupid, like say your prayers. Or, what Claremont decided to do, what he did quite a bit of the time, actually, was give them all an internal monologue. And it's useful stuff because basically Claremont decided that where they're fighting now is the same area where Jean as Dark Phoenix had to be eventually put down by the Shi'ar Empire, or by, I think it was some technology that was already on the moon. And Archangel, everybody here is thinking the same thing, which is like, man, it's weird to be here where Jean died. Except Archangel, who's a little preoccupied with how his wings are maneuvering here like they're familiar with the space. So, way to think about yourself first there, bud. And yeah, so this is just the proof that it's these robot apocalypses they're dealing with. And we get another good hero shot, another good let's go kind of thing. And that looks fantastic. He does use this panel border an awful lot, particularly in this issue. I haven't noticed it quite so much before, but it's on just about every spread has a variation on that. Okay, not that one. Or that one. That one, though. Okay, not those. All right, a bunch of spreads have a variation on that somewhere on there. And good job of keeping his face really lit here, but doing a really deep shadow under his chin. That kind of thing. And Jean receives an update from the ship that they've pinpointed Nathan in the chamber just beyond the door. And in case you were thinking, like, that seems weirdly specific, but okay. Cyclops himself is like, with ship's capabilities reduced to nothing. And he's just right behind the next door. Okay, that's a little convenient, but like, what are we going to do? Not go in there? And they go in. Apocalypse is right there with Nathan hooked up to some kind of machine here. He explained previously that he's basically absorbing Nathan's life essence. I'm not sure why it has to be him specifically. That seems to be like, there's got to be mutants. Assuming it has to be mutants, there's got to be ones who it's more convenient to steal, who won't have the ability to follow you to the moon and maybe like kill you or something. And Cyclops takes his shot, nice expressionistic background stuff going on. But turns out that Apocalypse also has holograms. And he's like 40 feet tall now, which I have to assume is the result of having absorbed a bunch of Nathan's energy, life essence, energy, something like that. But interesting enough cliffhanger. And we're going to get a little follow-up epilogue titled Prologue, where Sebastian Shaw is being told that he's been bought out of the Hellfire Club, essentially. And it turns out it was by his son, Shinobi. And of course, Sebastian Shaw is a particularly brutal character, and immediately goes to beat the shit out of Shinobi. Nice close-up, huge eye. But it works. Wills likes to do the large eyes with the smaller pupils. He does large eyes with regular-sized pupil, which still kind of has a similar effect. And Shinobi responds by telling him, oh, hey, by the way, my mutant power kicked in. And I can do the vision thing where I can change my molecular density. So I can do like a Kali-Mal and reach in and give you a coronary. And we're going to get the beep, 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 beep. Because bada boom. Bada boom. All right. Badoom, badoom. Yeah. Great explosion. I can't imagine. So, no, if Shinobi can control his molecular density, he can make himself hard enough to survive that kind of thing. But, I mean, that's Sebastian Shaw's whole thing, is absorbing energy, right? So I think he's probably okay, too. But Wills always does a good explosion. This is interesting stuff. And, again, very expressionistic. There's a lot of just, like, quick brush movements here. It doesn't look super exact. Like, maybe the basic layout. But then, yeah, just a lot of it's kind of slapped on. This stuff is a bit more precise, because it has to be. But all this stuff, yeah, this is just debris. You can just throw down all sorts of brushwork. So, next issue, Cyclops is confronted with a soul-shattering decision that will change his life forever. No lie, you must read X Factor number 68. Be here. Or at X Factor number 68. There we go. That is issue 67. And it's a pretty good issue. It's nice to not have to focus solely on plot, I have to say. Last couple of issues would be like, it's okay. Same with the Uncanny stuff. Same with Revenge of the Sinister Six, really. Which is all fine. It's just not, like, super enjoyable to read. It's more enjoyable to look at. This was enjoyable to read. Which, as I said, is a nice change. Like, you get like a whole description of the teleporting process here that, Wills tries to represent, but you can only do so much, right? And again, normally I talk about the art and the plot because that's the kind of stuff that's easy to break down. And, I don't really usually want to talk about the script because I don't want to do acting where I'm reading stuff out. Yeah, I won't read it out here. But like I said, enjoyable stuff. And yeah, after all the images I did, it's a nice change of pace sometimes. Just be like, well, I kind of want to turn the page and see some more of this. But yeah, that is going to do it for X Factor 67. So next time we'll wrap up this little 4-issue stint with X Factor number 68, which is a comic I don't really think I've read. I didn't have it back in the day, and I got it like a few months ago, and I don't think I've actually opened it yet, really. I mean, to glance through, but not so much to read. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's tomorrow's episode. This one's done. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when the next one comes out. Here's a hint, it's tomorrow. Open up the description, follow the links to subscribe on my Patreon. That'll give you access to all the Blood Force comics, the pages, any behind-the-scenes stuff. It'll also give you access to these videos before they get to YouTube, usually a week or so in advance. Also, go over to my Instagram. Commissions are now open there, so you can get your own Blood Force artwork. You can pick a dude to stand in the Cyclops stance here, and I will draw that, and I will make it look kind of like Will Sportatio drew it, but not quite if you're looking closely. They're more like somebody copied a Will Sportatio drawing. But, that guy is me. I will do that thing, because I'm that guy. But yeah, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.